Holiness, I know what's going on between you and Senior Rachel. And I'm telling you as your friend, stop it. You hear me? Stop it. If you want to be doing something, at least let it be with an opposite gender. With a boy, not this nonsense that Senior Rachel is feeding you. I can't have a boyfriend, princess. You know my parents, they will literally end me. And you think this is better? Senior Rachel is damaging you, Holiness. This is totally wrong. Please, think. Don't start what you can't finish.
Okay, fine. I'll think about it. Have you been to a boarding school before? Especially those ones with just either boys or just girls. Well, this story that you're about to watch is based on a real-life experience. This is Stories Hub by Nelo. Every story on this channel is original and authentic. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
So, St. Paul's Girls Secondary School, Agodo, a Christian school, all girls, Bible verses boldly written on the gates, the kind of school where parents drop their daughters off and go home to sleep very well at night. Because surely, nothing ungodly can happen where there are no boys, right? Well, I'm about to tell you about what was happening right inside these holy, blessed, scripture-decorated walls at night. These parents were busy paying school fees, sowing seeds in church, and thanking the Lord for His divine protection over their daughters, while their daughters were getting a completely different kind of education back in school. The kind that was absolutely not on the school curriculum. And you know the interesting part? The school authorities, the teachers, the hostel mistresses, sleeping comfortably, peacefully in total blissful ignorance. Because to them, as long as the girls were passing their exams in flying colors, showing up to chapel for prayers, everything was fine. Until it wasn't. One night, everything that had been buried in that hostel for years forced its way to the surface. And one girl, one pastor's daughter, who entered that school clutching her Bible, came out a completely different kind of person. This is the story of a girl called Holiness, and I promise you, she was anything but holy. I am taking you inside the walls of St. Paul's Girls Secondary School, Agodo. By the time I finish this story, you will not be the same person. This is a story about innocence, religion, peer pressure, and addiction. About the secrets that boarding schools walls keep. About what happens when parents think they've protected their children, and the children find the very thing the parents were protecting them from inside the four walls of the so-called Christian school. Her name was Holiness, and before you laugh, yes, that was her real name. Holiness Ike, named by her parents, Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Ike, two of the most dedicated, most firebrand, most Bible-carrying servants of God. And so, from the day Holiness was born, they wrapped her in what I can only describe as a glass cage. Beautiful, transparent, suffocating. No sleepovers, no birthday parties, no friends coming to the house, unless they were fellow pastors' children who had been background checks and prayed over. Her social life was three things and three things only: school, church, home. That was the rhythm of 14-year-old Holiness Ike's existence. Now, was she a bad child? Absolutely not. She was obedient, soft-spoken, a little shy, the kind of girl who still believed the world was exactly as parents described it: black and white, holy and unholy, saved and unsaved. She had never been to a party. She had never slow danced. She had never even owned a phone. She was 14 years old and she had never really lived. Because when her parents looked at her secondary school in JS3 and decided it was no longer standard enough for their Christian daughter, they sat down and prayed and concluded that Holiness needed a full Christian boarding school environment. They felt they were doing the right thing. Then they found St. Paul's Girls Secondary School, Agodo. The brochure was beautiful, Bible verses on every page, female-only environment, chapel service twice a week, academic excellence, character formation. So Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Ike were very, very happy to enroll their child in the school. They didn't know that behind those well-painted walls, behind that elegant school gate and the neatly trimmed compound, behind those hymns and that school uniform, something else entirely was happening. St. Paul's Girls Secondary School had a secret, and Holiness Ike, their precious, sheltered, never been to a party daughter, was about to walk right into the middle of it. The day Holiness arrived at the hostel with her Ghana must-go bags and her mother's carefully labeled provisions, her Milo, her cabin biscuits, her Indomie noodles, all with her name written in a permanent marker, she felt like she had landed on another planet. She felt some level of freedom. Girls were everywhere, laughing loudly, speaking in codes she didn't really understand, playing music from small hidden speakers. Seniors walking like they owned the hallways, because in boarding school, they did. Holiness stood there in her perfectly ironed uniform, clutching her Bible, looking absolutely painfully lost. And then someone spoke. "Oya, I'll help you with that bag. You look like you're about to faint." She turned around. It was Princess. She was 14, but carried herself like someone who had been to Paris and was merely visiting the school as a social experiment. Her provisions didn't come in Ghana must-go bags. They came in coordinated set of Louis Vuitton patterned travel boxes that her mother's personal assistant had packed and labeled. Her bedding was designer in a boarding school. Can you imagine? She had a portable fan, a skincare routine, and the kind of effortless confidence that only comes from growing up knowing that your family name opens doors before you even knock. Princess lacks nothing, and yet she chose Holiness. You've probably heard people say that opposites attract. This is exactly the situation. Whatever it was, within 2 weeks, Princess and Holiness were inseparable. They were the newcomers, often referred to as freshers. In a Nigerian boarding school, that title carries a clear message. As a new junior student, you are basically the target. The SS3 girls ran St. Paul the way a cattle runs a territory. They were the ones who bullied, the ones who would send juniors to go wash their buckets, iron their uniforms, fetch water at 5 in the morning, go buy things from the tuck shop with a junior's own pocket money. You can imagine that, the unspoken law of boarding school life. Holiness and Princess were targeted immediately because, of course, they were new and they looked soft. Not just that, Princess was obviously from a wealthy family and Holiness seemed very naive and easygoing. But then something unexpected happened. Among the SS3 girls, there were some who didn't want to bully them. They wanted something different. Wait, what could that be? Well, leading that group was a girl named Senior Rachel. Senior Rachel was 17, a house captain, academically brilliant, the kind of senior that teachers trusted completely and younger students admired from a distance. She had a smile that could make you feel chosen, like you were the only person in the room. She first appeared when 2 SS3 girls were giving Holiness trouble over her provision box. "Leave her," Senior Rachel said, and the girls backed up immediately. Holiness looked up at her like she had seen an angel. Thank you, Senior," she whispered. Rachel smiled, slow and deliberate. "Don't worry, I'll look out for you." And she did. She always appeared at the right moment. She would save Holiness's seat in the dining hall. She would send her snacks through the other students. She would sit with her in the evening after prep and help her with her math. Holiness was deeply, genuinely grateful. Here was someone in this strange, overwhelming school who actually cared about her, or so she thought. Because while Holiness was seeing a protector, Senior Rachel was seeing something else entirely. She was drawn to Holiness in a way that was not sisterly at all. Not mentorship, not friendship, a forbidden attraction. And slowly, like a spider who had all the patience in the world, she began to spin her web. Meanwhile, while Holiness was navigating the gentle trap being laid for her by Senior Rachel, Princess was dealing with her own situation. 2 SS3 girls, Senior Chioma and Senior Chiaroluwa, had taken a very particular interest in Princess. They were drawn to her beauty, her boldness, and her money. They even sent her love notes. You can imagine that. They left things on her bed, small gifts, fruits from the tuck shop. They made it clear that they wanted something beyond friendship from her. So this abomination has been going on in the so-called Christian school for several years, passed on from one set to another, and somehow the school officials were completely unaware of it. Princess had read every note, accepted every gift, but she was not interested in whatever they were offering. Not because she was holier than thou, far from it. Princess had her own secrets. In fact, as young as she was at 14, she was no longer a virgin. She had a secret boyfriend whose school was about 45 minutes drive away from hers. His name was Daniel. He and Princess had been together since she was in JSS 2. Now, how does a boarding school girl in an all-female Christian institution maintain a relationship with a boy 45 minutes away? I'm glad you asked that question. Well, money answered all things, my darling. The school gate man, Mazin Duka, was now his partner in crime. All she needed to do was squeeze some cash into his hands, and then boom, the gate was all hers. In fact, Mazin Duka would sit patiently at the gate and await her return to let her in without the school authorities finding out. Plus, she would often buy him some snacks as a thank you for his help. Princess had the system perfected. She would change out her uniform into clothes she kept in a bag underneath her mattress, take a keke to a meeting point, spend about 2 hours with Daniel, and be back before lights out, smelling faintly of his cologne and absolutely glowing. Holiness knew about Daniel. She didn't say much. She was in no position to judge anyone when she herself was slowly being drawn into something she didn't quite have words for yet. Our pastor's daughter has been captured by the devil himself. Because tell me why someone who hasn't even had a first kiss yet is now attracted to a fellow girl. Very disgusting. For a girl like Holiness, who spent 14 years in a home filled with rules instead of affection, Senior Rachel's attention didn't just feel nice, it felt like sunshine. Senior Rachel was strategic. She was patient. She didn't rush. Until by the time Holiness realized what was happening, the building was already halfway up. There was a night, a rainy Thursday night, when the hostel generator was off and everyone was in their beds. That night, things changed permanently for Holiness. I won't tell you what happened word for word. You are an adult, you understand better. What I will tell you is that when Holiness woke up the next morning, something inside her had shifted. Something had been opened that she did not know how to close, a door she had no experience navigating. And in the weeks that followed, that door stayed open. She told herself it was normal, that it was just something girls did in boarding school, that it didn't mean anything. But it did mean something because she kept going back. And then Princess found out. The worldly, fearless, direct Princess pulled Holiness aside one afternoon by the back of the classroom block and spoke to her plainly. Holiness, I know what's going on and I'm telling you as your friend, stop it. Do you hear me? Stop it. If you want to be doing something, at least let it be with an opposite gender, with a boy, not this nonsense that Senior Rachel is feeding you. Holiness looked at her with wide, slightly glazed eyes. I can't have a boyfriend, Princess. You know my parents. They will literally end me. And you think what Senior Rachel is doing is better? She is damaging you, Holiness. She will leave this school next year and you will be here carrying what she put inside you. Please think about it. Don't start what you cannot finish. But Holiness didn't listen, because here is the painful truth about a child who has been caged their entire life. The first taste of any kind of freedom, no matter how toxic, feels like liberation. Her parents had unknowingly created in her a hunger so deep, so unaddressed, that when anything came to fill it, she grabbed it with her both hands and held on. And so the school term continued. December holidays arrived. Holiness packed her bags and went home to her parents. Back to the house that smelled of anointing oil and morning devotion. Back to the schedule of going to church 5 times a week. Back to the controlled, monitored, suffocating love of Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Ike, her parents. And she was miserable. Not because anything bad had happened to her, not because her parents were cruel, but because she had tasted something, however dark, however wrong, she could not untaste it. The absence of it made her restless, irritable, distracted during devotion, distant during family dinners. Her mother noticed. "Holiness, are you okay? You seem far away." "I'm fine, mommy. Just school stress." She smiled, and she counted down the days until she could go back. When the new term began, and she resumed as an SS2 student, something had hardened inside her. She was no longer the naive girl who had arrived clutching her Bible. She moved through the hostels with a quiet confidence that looked from the outside like maturity. But it wasn't maturity. It was a girl who had tasted something forbidden that she was never supposed to taste and was now beginning to teach it to others. Because in the warped economy of boarding school corruption, the cycle works like this. What is done to you, you do to someone else. The initiated becomes the initiator. The prey becomes the predators. So something happened. It was a Wednesday, midterm, SS2 second term. Princess had been acting strange for about 3 weeks. Eating less, moving slowly, wearing her uniform blouse looser than usual, avoiding Holiness's eyes. Holiness had noticed, but every time she asked, Princess waved it off. "I'm fine." She was not fine. Princess was pregnant. 8 weeks and absolutely terrified. She had told Daniel. He had gone quiet for 3 days and sent a message, "We'll figure it out," which in boy language meant, "I have no idea what to do and I am hoping this problem solves itself." The SS3 girls she confided in were quicker with solutions. "There's something we can get for you," they told her. "You drink it at night and by morning everything will be gone like your normal monthly flu. Nobody will even know." Princess was terrified, but she was more terrified of her father finding out, of the headlines, of the shame, of what it would mean for her family name. So she agreed. I mean, she had no choice. They gave it to her on a Wednesday night, when the hostel supervisor had gone to bed and the dormitory was dark and quiet. Princess drank it, and by 2 o'clock in the morning, the dormitory was chaos. She was bleeding badly, the kind of bleeding that whispered panic, and no amount of towels could contain. The SS3 girls, the same ones who had been so confident with their solutions, were now frozen with fear. So one of them, to her own credit, ran to knock on the hostel mistress's door. The hostel mistress screamed. The school's sick bay nurse arrived. Within 20 minutes, an ambulance had been called. Princess's parents arrived at 4 in the morning. Her father, a big man, the one whose name appeared in business pages, arrived in a convoy of black SUVs, his face a mask of pure terror. She was rushed to one of the best private hospitals in Lagos. Her life was saved, but her womb was not. At 15 years old, Princess would never carry a child naturally. And the family, with all their resources, all their connections, all their grief, sued St. Paul's Girls' Secondary School Agodo for everything it had. There is a saying that every secret has an expiry date. The lawsuit cracked open St. Paul's like an egg. Investigators, journalists, parents demanding answers, the school board convening emergency meetings, teachers who had chosen comfort over vigilance now sitting in rooms being asked hard questions. And as they dug, they found more than Princess's story. They found the network, the unsanctioned night activities, the fence jumping, the bribery of the gate man. They found about what had been happening in the dormitories after lights out. They called students in one by one, and when Holiness's name came up, immediately she said her name. The investigators gave her a knowing look because obviously a lot of students had mentioned her name as their coach. She knew before they said a word that the game was over. She was expelled alongside many other students. Her parents were called. Now, I want you to imagine that moment. Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Ike, who had built their entire identity around righteousness and the proper raising of their child, who they had sent to a Christian school, who they had prayed and sacrificed and believed they had done the right thing for, sitting across from a school administrator, hearing what their daughter had been involved in, and worse, hearing that she had not just been a victim, that she had in turn brought others into it. The drive home was silent, the loudest silence Holiness had ever experienced in her life. Instead of getting their daughter real help, The pastor and his wife chose fasting and prayers. They believed a demon was behind it and that prayer alone would fix everything. They enrolled her in a mixed secondary school close to their house to complete her SS3. New school, new uniform, fresh start. Except the addiction. He doesn't respect new uniforms. The thing about certain patterns of behavior, especially those established in formative years, is that they don't just sit in the environment. They travel with you. They live in the mind, in the body, and in the nervous system. Holiness tried. She genuinely tried to overcome the forbidden desire, but the hunger found new targets. Quiet girls who reminded her of herself. Girls she befriended quickly and warmly, and subtly began to lead them down the path they didn't even know they were walking. And here is what made it even more complex. She felt nothing for the boys. Not disgust, not hatred, just nothing. A complete absence of attraction that every teenage girl around her age seemed to feel naturally and easily. She looks at boys the same way she should be looking at her fellow girls. But when she spotted a light-skinned girl with natural curves, her mind would spiral into all sorts of inappropriate thoughts. She fought against it, but it was tough. Her struggle was real. This is how bad it was. She graduated SS3 quietly. No fanfare, no celebration dinner, just a result slip placed on the kitchen table and a house that felt like it was holding its breath. 3 years later, University of Lagos, 200 level. Holiness was 19, brilliant like she had always been, but still fighting her demons. In fact, university even made it worse because she was free to do whatever she likes. It was almost like her presence drew in girls who felt the same way she did. Girls with quiet, unspoken desire, feelings they knew the world wasn't ready to accept. But if you looked at her from the outside, you'd never suspect a thing. She carried herself like a perfect pastor's daughter, just a young girl trying to find her way in university. But the war inside her was still raging. It was exhausting, waking up every day and fighting yourself, smiling in public and bleeding in private, carrying a secret that felt like it was getting heavier, not lighter, with every passing year. She had made peace with the idea that this might just be who she was. And then Steve happened. Steve Nnaji, 300 level, business administration. They lived in the same coastal block off campus. He was tall, he was handsome, and a devoted Christian. He didn't perform. He didn't pretend. He was genuinely a child of God. In fact, a student pastor, yet humble to the core. She noticed him first because he was always reading his Bible in the common room between 8 and 9 p.m. And she found it very annoying because it reminded her of something she was running from. He noticed her because she always sat in the corner with her earphones in that told him this was a person carrying something heavy. He started with small things, a greeting, a smile. One day, he left a sticky note on the common room table she had always used. Just a Bible verse, no name, nothing. She threw it away. He left another one the next week. She read it sluggishly and kept that one inside one of her books. So he invited her to his campus fellowship. She said no. He invited her again. She said no, again and again. This man invited Holiness 10 times, 10 good times, and this girl looked him in the face and said, "No, thank you. I am not interested. Please leave me alone." But Steve was not moved. He was not discouraged. He was not forming. He genuinely, quietly, stubbornly kept showing up. And then one Sunday evening, rainy, the kind of evening that makes you feel the weight of your own life pressing down on your chest, Holiness had nowhere to go, nothing to do, and nobody to call. And that heaviness, that thing that she had been carrying for years, felt heavier than usual. So she got up, not because she was ready, not because she believed, not because she had turned a new leaf. She went purely because she was tired of her own company, and honestly, partly to shut Steve up. At least after this, she could tell him, "I came, I didn't feel anything, now leave me alone." She sat at the very back of the church, arms folded, face set, completely ready to be unimpressed. And then the worship started. Now, I can't fully explain what happened next because it wasn't just the song, it wasn't even the words, it was something in the atmosphere, something that felt ancient and familiar at the same time, like a memory her body recognized before her mind could catch up. Something that felt like home, the real kind, not the home of rules and restrictions and morning devotion by force. The warmth she had felt as a little girl before religion covered it over. That was when her transformation began. Steve noticed it. He didn't say a word, he didn't make it awkward, he didn't nudge her or give her that look. He simply reached out into his pocket and passed her his handkerchief. That's it, that was the moment. And from that day, slowly, imperfectly, and with relapses and tears and prayers that she didn't always believe would work, Holiness began to find her way back. Fast forward to 3 years after their graduation, they got married. Yes, they got married. No big announcement, no dramatic proposal story for social media, just two people who had chosen each other, fully knowing each other and deciding that that was enough. And today, Holiness and Steve Okafor are that couple. You know that couple that you look at and something in you goes quiet because you're seeing something real, not perfect, not a highlight reel, but two people who are genuinely, deeply facing the same direction. She works with young women now, sits across from them in small rooms, in coffee shops, in church counseling offices. Girls with that look in their eyes, that look that says, oh, I don't know if this can be fixed. And Holiness looks right back at them and says, I know that look. I used to wear it too. Tell me what happened. And she listens without shock, without judgment, without flinching or even pulling back. Because she had learned that the most powerful thing you can offer a broken person is simply your presence. Your full, undivided, unashamed presence. Because the girl who was once the wound became the healing. And that is the story of Holiness, a girl who was locked away from the world and found the worst of it inside a Christian school gate. And a girl who found her way back, not because life was fair to her, not because she deserved it more than others, but because grace doesn't work that way. Grace finds you in the back row, arms folded, ready to be unimpressed, and it stays anyway.
With that, we've come to the end of this story. What do you think about what happened to Holiness? Let's hear your thoughts in the comment section. If you love this story, please do well to give it a thumbs up. And if this is the very first time you are coming across this channel and you are yet to subscribe, please do so that you don't miss out whenever I post more interesting and entertaining stories like this.